on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doing Time Show. This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. And just starting off the show by introducing Subscriber Drive, and that is starting today, the 15th of February, until the 21st of February. And Subscriber Drive is really important because it's all about people either initiating to have a subscription. Oh, sorry. It's been a long day. It is stage 4 restrictions. Maybe my tongue's locked as well. We are in lockdown, stage 4 restrictions, COVID-19. So people will be needed to subscribe to 3CR, and it costs just $35 to subscribe to 3CR if you're unwaged or concession. It's $75 waged and $150 solidarity or for a band or organisation. And you can subscribe online by going to www.3cr.org.au subscribe. You can also subscribe by calling the station during business hours, Monday to Friday, and paying by credit card. Call 9419 8377. So a 3CR subscriber is a member of the station and therefore has a say in what happens at 3CR. Subscribers keep 3CR independent and commercial free. First up on the show, we're going to be speaking with Ian Rintel, and he has been extensively a guest on our show over quite a few years now. He's from the Refugee Action Coalition, and we'll be speaking with Ian about refugees and asylum seekers. There have been a number of media releases recently which have discussed quite a few disturbing atrocities that have happened. One of them being that there was a hit and run on Nauru. We will also be speaking about self-harm and how some refugees have been left behind. Some of the Medivac refugees have been left behind at the Park Hotel in Melbourne. And we'll speak about that and also about how there was a guard that tested positive for coronavirus in one of the detention centres. So we'll be speaking with Ian, quite a lot to talk about there. And then after that, we'll be providing listeners with some special snippets from the Doing Time show. Now, 3CR has a lot of really diverse shows. So the snippets that we'll be providing is really just a glimpse. It's a glimpse into what is showcased at 3CR, just to show you that it is important to subscribe. And these will be just little bits of material and interviews from 2020, and I'll be introducing that later on. Okay, so on to Ian.
We've got a common enemy. The same government that locks up these refugees just behind us here at the Park Hotel is the same government that's going for our rights, trying to attack the very limited gains that casuals have. And so when union activists take up the cause of refugees amongst their fellow workers, it's not an act of charity. It's about building workers' united self-defence mechanism, understanding that we're all part of the same battle.
Subscribe to 3CR in 2021. Feed Radical Radio. Subscribe today. Go to 3cr.org.au/subscribe or call the station on 9419 8377.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. Hello, Ian. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi, Marissa.
It's lovely to have you. As I said in my introduction, we are in stage 4 restrictions now in Victoria for COVID-19.
Yes, yeah. I think everyone around the country's seen the latest developments in Victoria. So, yeah, our hearts are with you.
Thank you so much. It's devastating, isn't it, to see the direct impact of years of government inaction, isn't it, on what's happening with refugees and asylum seekers. Could you tell us about what's been happening lately in regards to, self-harm, and also I believe a guard also tested positive for COVID-19, and there's been quite a few media releases, hasn't there, recently?
Yep. No, it's been a very... Yeah, it is a difficult time because it has been so long now that people have been in detention. Like, it's getting up close to 8 years for the people who've been in Nauru and Manus Island, and the fact you've got people who are in Australian detention centres. Some of them have been in there longer, 10 and 11 years now. So it's a very desperate situation for them. Of course, COVID has made the much worse situation. The government admits it's a high-risk environment in the detention centres and in the hotels where Medivac refugees have been put now for almost 2 years, but they've done nothing really to improve the situation for people in the hotels. And as you said in the introduction, just recently there was a scare. The guard turned out to he returned a negative test in the end, but so that was okay, but it was a very big scare inside the Park Hotel, where you've got 11 refugees who have been left behind, and they got an announcement over the speaker system of the hotel that 11 o'clock on Friday night, saying that guard has been being tested for COVID. You are now all required to go into isolation, so they had to return to their individual rooms. Shortly after that announcement, Serco guards come in full biohazard outfits, full PPE, personal protection, where they were started to clean things and shepherd people back into the room. So it was a very scary situation for quite a while, until on Sunday morning people were told that the guard had tested negative, and so the guys in the Park Hotel wouldn't be tested at all. But it was just it was a shot over the bow. It's probably the fourth one we've had where there've been people who have been found to be positive. Serco guards have been found to be positive, but it's just a matter of time. Marissa, as you know, with the lockdowns that are happening in Victoria, it's only a matter of time until there is an infection and people are being exposed unnecessarily.
Indeed, you are absolutely right, Ian, and it's. Believe me, my sense of humour has been severely tested. I'm actually at the point now where I'm actually babbling sometimes, because it's like I just can't believe what's going on. It's lockdown after lockdown. You've got refugees that are locked up, Medivac refugees, and I believe there were 12 Medivac refugees in the Park Hotel that they were confined to their individual rooms in the hotel. So that media release, I received that on the 14th of February, and it said in there that the Serco guide had tested positive, and then he tested negative.
Yes, the most definitive thing was people got the announcement over the radio, over the internal speaker system, which was, I got my information from the people inside the hotel.
Sure.
They understood that the announcement said that he was positive. I can't confirm that, but the biohazard, the Serco guards come in shortly after in full PPE, so it's pretty clear someone thought.
There's a photo and video clip here to prove it.
There's no question about the incident and about the level of anxiety that was created. Ultimately, the guard tested negative, so so far so good. But as we said, it is just a matter of time. They're a disaster anyway, but COVID makes them a disaster waiting to happen in terms of being exposed to the virus.
Not only was this not discussed on mainstream media, I haven't seen that on ABC, I haven't seen that on any channels, TV channels at all, but, imagine all that anxiety and then refugees potentially being exposed to the positively, to the virus itself.
Yeah, it caused a huge amount of anxiety, and in the case of the Park Hotel, it is just so unnecessary. When you've had about almost 50 people released from the hotel, the government has given no explanation for why 12 people are being kept inside there. They're anxious enough about that anyway, after almost 8 years in detention, about why they've been singled out to be kept in the hotel, and then with the COVID risk on top of that. But the whole past year of the pandemic, there's been, as I said, probably 4 instances at least where we've had this kind of close call, where there's a Serco, officer, has been found to be positive. Other Serco officers are being tested, and there's no real protection given to people inside. They're constantly exposed because of the rotation of COVID officers. In the early days of Mantra, there you had other guests, including international airline staff, coming and going from the hotel. So it's been good luck rather than good management that we haven't seen people infected inside those places.
I'm just really glad that you could come onto the show today, because today is the beginning of Subscriber Drive, and one of the things that 3CR prides itself on is that we actually deliver media from people and communities that are deprived of a voice. And refugees are indeed deprived of a voice, aren't they? And there was another media release recently too from the Refugee Action Coalition in regards to self-harm in the hotel. Can you talk about that? Because I understand that some Medivac refugees have been released and some left behind.
That's right. I mean, there's been some very, very unfortunate incidents, as a whole, because of the long-term detention, full stop. But when some people were recently released, as I mentioned earlier, and 14 people initially were left behind in the hotel. There was, one guy attempted suicide and was, taken from the Park Hotel to the detention centre in Maida because of, his concern about being left behind, to be, look like you were going to be released and see, your fellow refugees actually being released, and then you being left behind with no explanation. It became sort of too much for him, but it's added dramatically to all the things that create the situation for self-harm inside the detention centres.
Absolutely, it's so incredibly brutal, isn't it, Ian?
Yes, I mean, it's hard to believe, but it's that level of, it's quite deliberate, conscious, government policy, even down to this. I mean, there's no explanation about why the 12 were left behind. You had, Peter Dutton on 2GB the other day saying, they're being released because it's costing too much. But you've got, 67 people in Kangaroo Point. You've got another 30 in Maida. You've got 12 left behind. It's costing too much for them as well. It's costing too much in terms of their lives, their future, their mental and physical health. Forget about, how much money Dutton is spending. It's a complete, waste of their lives. And if Dutton was consistent, well, then they would be released. If he is concerned about saving money, you can save a lot more money, by getting everyone out of detention.
Absolutely. And finally, I believe that a Tamil refugee was seriously injured on Nauru. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, look, that's got to be one of the most, it's one of the ugliest incidents that we've seen come out of Nauru. The Tamil refugee on late on Tuesday night, was riding his motorbike home. He was run down by a car of Nauruans. They knocked him off the bike. The car went over his body. They then reversed the car, so it went back over his body. People got out of the car and actually physically attacked him on the ground, and then stole his motorbike, effectively just leaving him, for dead. So he's had some shocking injuries. It took from Tuesday night until Friday night for him to be finally taken by air ambulance from Nauru. He's now in intensive care as a hospital in Sydney. But it's I think one of the most shocking incidents, which demonstrates that refugees are not safe on Nauru. That the refugees and asylum seekers since 2013 have lived in a general, climate of fear on Nauru because they are vulnerable. They're so, clearly exposed to this kind of attack, and there've been so many of them over the years. But this is a particularly brutal example of the kind of vulnerability that asylum seekers in Nauru, actually face, and it's caused another wave of fear for those. There's only about 125 people, asylum seekers and refugees, left on Nauru. They could so easily be brought to Australia and given, protection in Australia, but we've not seen that so far. So we're doing a lot, all that we can do in terms of contacting the Tamil community and refugee supporters in Australia to make sure that the Tamil refugee gets all the support he needs.
He's only 36 years old, and I'm hoping that he's been transferred from Nauru to Australia.
Yes, he has. He was transferred late on Friday night, so by air ambulance got to the hospital in Sydney on Saturday morning. He's now in intensive care and in an induced coma, but, the level of the injuries are unbelievable. Broken shoulder, broken hand, broken hip, broken leg, facial fractures, broken back. It's just absolutely unbelievable what has happened to him, and it is just such an unnecessary thing to happen. He should never have been on the Nauru, should never have been exposed to that kind of violence.
Well, I don't like to speculate, but this sounds like attempted murder, and it's a very ugly incident.
It is, and so far, interestingly enough, or perhaps typically enough, the Nauru police have declined, to comment. We've seen too many examples in the past where the lack of police action on Nauru has made it very clear that the people can attack refugees and asylum seekers with impunity. So it's good to see that they have been arrested, but there's not going to be justice, even if these people are finally, prosecuted, and we will have to wait to see if that is what eventuates. Too often before, they've been held in similar incidents, held for a short time and then released. But there's not going to be any justice until we get everyone, the asylum seekers and refugees, off Nauru.
No justice, no peace. And such a shocking reminder there, Ian, of the threat of violence that refugees and asylum seekers live with on Nauru, as they're routinely targeted.
Yeah, it's a daily fact of life. I think it's one of the bizarre, ironies, is one of the sick ironies of offshore detention, is that people who have fled, violence and war and brutality, persecution in other countries find themselves on places where, rather than getting any kind of safety, they're subjected to almost as much violence as they suffered in the land they've fled from.
Indeed. Ian, thank you so much for coming onto the program. And,
okay, Marissa. Yep, thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks.
Okay, good luck with your fund drive.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to Radical Radio 3CR.
The Black Lives Matter movement is not going away here or overseas. It gives me hope seeing the numbers of people that turn out to these Invasion Day demonstrations in Melbourne. It gives me the understanding that we will win, folks. We will succeed.
Subscribe to 3CR in 2021. Feed Radical Radio. Subscribe today. Go to 3cr.org.au/subscribe or call the station on 94198377.
And you're back with the Doin' Time show. And we'll be speaking shortly with Tamar Hopkins, former principal solicitor from the Flemington Kensington Community Legal Centre. And she's also been doing and has done extensive research in regards to police powers and racial profiling. I just want to start off an introduction by giving listeners a quote from Premier Daniel Andrews in Victoria. Our priority is to make the hard decisions to fight this virus and keep the community safe. And now we're supporting those Victorians who've made this possible. Premier Daniel Andrews said in a statement on Sunday. Basically, the chief focus for the 3,000 people now locked inside their flats in the 9 towers at Flemington and North Melbourne has been the shortage of supplies like sanitary napkins and food and toiletries. And I'm going to be speaking to Tamar about this very complex issue and really looking at, has there been a coordinated effort here, what's going on, and what can be done to improve things. And certainly the Doin' Time show is not saying that that the virus isn't important. We do need to eliminate the virus. But what's happening? What's happening with the 9 towers? Hello, Tamar. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Marissa. Thanks very much. There's a bit of an echo on this call. So
yes. That's because of the pandemic. There's been restrictions at 3CR, and I'm doing the show remotely from home, so the sound may not be as usual.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
That warning. I can. So, I've been in communication with one of the residents and part of a Facebook group that's been set up to talk about what's going on. So I have a little bit of insight about what's happening. And look, there's some incredible organising going on, amazing leadership from inside the flats, real solutions being sought out from the inside. I think everyone is quite appalled and shocked by the lack of preparation on the part of the state government in going into this hard lockdown without.
Can you take us through from the beginning? So what happened, Tamar?
Yeah, so on Saturday in the afternoon, there was an announcement from the Premier that as of the announcement that the flats at North Melbourne and Flemington would be subject to a hard lockdown, which we understand meant that all the residents were not allowed out of their houses for any reason at all, so not for the usual 4 reasons that are provided to other residents that have been put into level 3 lockdowns, but were actually to stay in their flat, like full stop. So this gave people no preparation to get food, medication, extra things for their babies, things for their elderly family members that were living there, fresh food. There was no opportunity at all to prepare for this. It was suddenly under lockdown. Then it became apparent that the other thing was that the Premier ordered that there be 500 police put on the estate to basically police the perimeter and prevent people from going in and out. And we were told that there would be police on every floor and certainly in foyers and all around the centres, and roads are blocked off, have been blocked off. There was a real confusion immediately about what was happening. It looked like some of the residents in North Melbourne were able to get out to get medications just in that evening, but people in Flemington were locked down immediately, so there was a bit of inconsistency about what was actually going on. But now I understand that everyone is under a lockdown. And now the thing about this is that if people are unable to get out to get their needs met, then they are completely reliant on the state to provide those needs. And there is real concern that this has not occurred. There has not been adequate information provided, not adequate food. People are running out of, vital supplies for their children. Food that has been delivered we've heard reports that it's been cooked pies with ham inside, which is completely inappropriate. These are their homes. They can cook. They want fresh vegetables and fruit. And just while I'm on this point, I've just got a list of things that people are requesting. That's milk, bread, cooking oil, baby formula, masks, gloves, sanitizer baby products, fruit, vegetables, lentils, and that they're asking that it be dropped off at the North Melbourne Mosque, which is at 91 to 101 Boundary Road in North Melbourne. So they are...
Repeat that address again.
The address is 91 to 101 Boundary Road in North Melbourne. So people could take supplies there. They can be distributed to the residents. the other extraordinary thing about this, Marissa, is that this hard lockdown was only applied to the high-rise public housing estates. There are other high-rise apartments close by that have not been subject to these restrictions. The surrounding streets are not subject to these restrictions. So the people are inside looking out over people who are able to get out, go to their work, go to get food, and yet they are restricted inside. So there is a real sense of one set of rules applying to public housing tenants who are, a very highly racialised community versus everyone else in these communities, and that difference in treatment is profoundly.
Hi, we're the Marindas, and you're listening to 3CR Community Radio 855 AM.
And you're back with the Doin' Time show, and it's approximately 4:25. And just to remind listeners that particular interview was a snippet from last year, 2020, and it was around July last year, and I actually included that material about the towers just to highlight how 3CR actually looks at providing coverage for people that have been deprived of a voice and looking at the real issues. And pretty soon we're going to be playing you another bit of material with Lex Wotton.
Oh, typical of a man in the Western system. Like, hello, all stories may be important, but at the end of the day, Invasion Day, you can't compare that to the First Fleet, because Invasion Day was the start of a dispossession, murder, massacres, and the total annihilation of some people on a continent that had existed since time immemorial. So Scott Morrison, if he really wants to lead this country, he needs to shut his mouth in regards to those comments and really understand that Australia Day cannot be celebrated. It is a day of mourning for our people, and they would not celebrate the Holocaust. So I don't understand how that is any different than what our people went through, because the genocide continues today. Like, Scott Morrison really needs to take a step back and listen to the voices on the ground, because he's really ignorant in my view.
Subscribe to 3CR in 2021. Feed Radical Radio. Subscribe today. Go to 3cr.org.au/subscribe or call the station on 94198377.
Media story on Channel 9 is actually quite deplorable, isn't it? They make Palm Island look really bad, and they talk about the residents. They talk about how the residents won their legal fight against the Queensland Police Service, and they talk about how violent they were, and saying that the compensation money was spent recklessly on luxury. Can you comment on that?
Well, like you said, yes, there was a bit of luxury that was spent on some of the money, but that's their money, and they spend it however they want to spend it. You know what I mean? And it's no one's business. And as you stated, it wasn't about money. As I think I raised it with you some years ago, how I would have liked to have seen the compensation awarded to us was for the state to fund programs for, say, about 20 years without fail. And I didn't want monetary compensation towards individuals or myself. It would be good to get it myself, you know what I mean, because I'm the one who's putting my neck out there, you know what I mean? And,
so it didn't go to you, it went to the community?
No, well, I did receive some monetary thing, and that was after we actually were awarded. And but if you could go back to the time when it was stated that we were right in our thing, and that the state, the Crown, I suppose, but federal high courts found in our favour. The state wanted to settle the matter by giving me my payment, and then in the process, after they had 21 days to lodge an appeal, and on the last day of the 21 days, they actually lodged an appeal, and then it sort of brought more thing, but we were more or less preparing to fight them, but then others got into action where there were petitions. I think there was a petition put out on our behalf for the state to drop the appeal and just pay us out. And so we were looking for 25,000 signatures. We got well over 30-something thousand signatures. And then there were other things that happened at the time, and it was pretty close to some state election, and I said...
Now, which petition was this, Lex?
This is for the state to drop the suit.
Oh, yes.
And so then I also announced that I'd be running in the state seat of Townsville, just to take away the votes by taking away the whatever numbers here from Palm Island, because Palm Island determines the seat of Townsville, federal and state. So whether that was all part of the things, so they decided to drop the appeal, I don't know, but then there were media reports saying that the state, their head solicitor said, look, just pay the community out and, get on with things. And so that's why the state decided to drop the appeal, and then we went into negotiations on how much. So we had a bit of time to then I think we had 12 months to get claimants registered, and it was open to 2,000 people, only 447 local people claimed, and due to some of the leaders at the time with their hatred towards myself were informing community people not to lodge a claim because they didn't believe that they would receive anything out of it. You know what I mean? So that's their bad luck. And as of recent, when there was a bit of a payment early February, I think, or late February, March, there's the 90% of their payments were awarded to the claimants. When they heard, the ones who missed out heard the amounts, they're bloody kicking up a stink and wanting to, they had petitions and stuff wanting to petition the state to pay them out, but already signed off, you know what I mean? But
Lex, it sounds like a bit of a mess to me. It sounds like it's a bit of a mess, and I think really what this boils down to, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, is that really this shouldn't be about money or what it was spent on. And I'll make a correction on there because I said it wasn't true that there were luxury items, but it isn't true really across the board because not everybody would have done that. And also, you're right, it's none of anyone's business if people want to buy luxury things. I mean, what is it? What is it to the media? What is it to the government as to how people spend their money anyway?
Probably once a promotion. I saw another reporter from the same bloody channel, Channel 9, did a report on me, and his name was Tim Arvia, and he had the same police officer, Kathy Richardson, come to my house while I was going home for lunch on the particular day and sort of ambushed me. And when at the time when it was in the media that the state settled with us, they were spreading the rumours or gossip to get public opinion, I suppose, of support around why we should receive the money, and saying that none of the police officers were awarded any compensation, but as my lawyer said, and which was true, all the police officers that were here on the island at the time received bravery awards. And not only that, the truth is they all actually have left the force saying they were too traumatised from what happened here on Palm Island, and that they're all on post-traumatic stress disorder, and they're all going to be paid up until the time they retire. That's what the wider public don't know about what's happened. So
absolutely.
They're on full pay. And but going back to, yes, where they spent the money, that's no one's business. But the thing is, they received the money and they did what they did, and I've seen a lot of good things. What the reporter didn't report was what I said to him, thinking that he was doing the right thing by me. I told him that all the generosity that I've seen from people, and you would have seen if you've seen the report, they would have added and cut things to suit themselves, and there was not one mention of someone being deceased that received the money, or deceased people received money, which is true. There were people that claimed for money, but they are deceased at the moment, and if they had an estate, then that estate is entitled to that money and stuff like that.
Absolutely, Lex. No, you're absolutely right. And in fact, it's perfectly all right, isn't it, for mining corporations and to grow fat on the profits of nuclear testing and nuclear mining, and it's perfectly all right for them to buy yachts. But, when you talk about Aboriginal people, you've got a lot of 1788 all over again mentality, where they're saying that Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islanders are always trying to reap financial benefits for themselves. And
did
that
they
is
ever do a
absolutely
report on stolen wages and how much millions and billions of dollars have been stolen from our off our backs? And we've been pushed off the land so that they can rape the land and bloody do everything else what they did today. And now we're going to fight to actually prove our our traditional ownership of it.
You're listening to 3CR Community Radio 855 AM on digital and online. 3CR Radical Radio.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. I was getting all revved up with that interview. And just to let you know, that was last year, 2020, and that was part of an interview with Lex Watton. And it's basically just to highlight about subscribing. So fund a radio station that has a policy of non-racist and non-sexist broadcasting and support the struggles of working people everywhere and Aboriginal people. And it's really important. And I suppose I've just done the show in a little bit of a different format this year, just to highlight that. And as I said, there are many, many diverse shows on 3CR, and Doing Time is just a glimpse, really, about the wonderful work that 3CR is actually doing and how it's important to subscribe. And next up, we've got our last little snippet from Karen Fletcher, And Karen Fletcher is going to be talking about the prison system and COVID-19. There may be a couple of events. Don't go to those events, of course, because they were last year. And that'll be actually part of that interview. Karen Fletcher has actually done a lot of work in prisons, and I believe at that time she was based in Darebin. And this is just yet another highlight to look at the work that's being done at 3CR.
So it's up to us, the people. We need a treaty in this country. We need the end to the war in this country. And the only way we can do that is through a peace treaty. Not the one you see in Victoria, not the one you see in Queensland, not the one you see in the Northern Territory, because they talk treaty and still lock our people up. They still kill our people. They still desecrate our land and our water. A treaty means peace. A treaty means equality. And a treaty means justice. Thank you.
Subscribe to 3CR in 2021. Feed Radical Radio. Subscribe today. Go to 3cr.org.au/subscribe or call the station on 94198377.
And we've just had an announcement, and I believe we're going to be going now to Karen Fletcher.
We have a prison advice service which operates on Fridays from 10 till 4, and prisoners can ring in on that number if they have our phone number on their phone card. So I'll give the number at the beginning and then again at the end perhaps. It's 03 9484 4751. That's staffed on Fridays between 9:30 and 4:30 by lawyers and paralegals, and we can speak to people in prison and their families and loved ones about prison law issues.
That's fantastic, and we do actually have a listenership in prisons for the Doing Time show, so that's really useful that you've given that out. And we'll do that at the end, Karen. That's a good idea. So what do you think about all this, about the health crisis and what's happening with prisons? I mean, we've done quite a lot of extensive coverage on our show in regards to the pandemic and how there really is such a lack of hygiene in prisons, and indeed prisoners are very much excluded from all this. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, look, I think it's true to say that prisons are one of the highest risk environments for transmission of COVID-19. They're right up there with cruise ships, health facilities, aged care facilities, all places where there are people who are living in a high density and people who've got compromised health. And international experience has been that once COVID-19 infection gets into a prison, usually it's through staff, prison officers or contractors, it spreads extremely quickly and it has devastating results. And we've seen very high rates of death in prisons in other countries, and particularly in the United States, where mass incarceration is probably the highest in the world.
Absolutely. And so there's been a lockdown of prisons across the state, Karen. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the strategy in Victoria, where we are, and I would say in other Australian jurisdictions, has been to sort of focus on trying to keep COVID-19 out of the prisons, which of course is the first line of defence. And there's been, I think, arguably not so much attention on what is going to happen if COVID-19 gets in. And all public health advice is that the only and the most important public health measure if COVID-19 gets into a prison is to reduce the size of the population and get people out. So all public health advice is that we need to be focusing on getting people out, particularly young people, elderly people, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and people with compromised immune systems because of other illnesses. And there's mechanisms available to do that. We've got the ability in Victoria for the prison operators to release people 14 days early if there's an emergency situation like this, which would have a huge impact because about half of all prisoners serve less than a month. Most people serve very, very short terms in prison, so releasing people 14 days early would have a huge impact. But there's also some laws there that enable people to be released if they're in very poor health and they need to be released for health reasons. But there hasn't been focus on that decarceration as a public health measure in Australian prisons. As I said, the main focus has been on quarantining prisoners or locking people down when they first come into prisons. And now that there have been cases of both people on remand and prison staff testing positive for COVID-19, there's now this big emphasis on locking everybody down in the youth detention centres and the prisons. And several prisons have had full lockdowns where people are confined to their cells completely. On one day last week, we had a day where people couldn't even get to court or even by video conference for their bail hearings.
Hi, I am Mr. Silla from Iceland, and you're listening to 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM, 3CR Digital, and streaming at 3cr.org.au.
It's now or never for climate action. So join the National Sustainable Living Festival this February for a program showcasing cutting-edge solutions to the ecological and social challenges of our times. Be part of the change and join the sustainability movement with a month of workshops, talks, demonstrations, artworks, exhibitions, films and live performances. It's time to reset to climate safe. For the full program, go to slf.org.au. The National Sustainable Living Festival is a 3CR supporter.
Hello, this is Virginia from the 3CR Garden Show. We are back live to the airwaves every Sunday from 7:30 to 9:15. There are some changes. Sadly, Pam has retired at the Garden Show and will be sorely missed. But Stephen and I are excited to be hosting the show, and we have many old favourites and some new voices. So tune in for the usual fabulous gardening advice. 855 on the AM dial, 3CR Digital or 3cr.org.au. Every Sunday from 7:30 to 9:15, COVID permitting. Look forward to your company. Cheers.
Commons Social Change Library is an online collection of educational resources for those campaigning for social change. It collects, curates and distributes the key lessons and resources of progressive movements around Australia and across the globe. The library includes over 500 resources covering campaign strategy, community organising, activist history, digital campaigning, diversity and inclusion, and much, much more. It's free to access the library, so check out the collection at www.commonslibrary.org. Commons Social Change Library is a 3CR supporter.
I really am not understanding why people aren't seeing the fact that prisons are an integral part of a public health response to a pandemic. Like you, I'm really concerned about whether the data is being released very honestly about illnesses within prison. I have suspicions it's not, but really we need very strong leadership in this country that actually cares about people inside our most vulnerable populations inside. That's what we need, and that's not what we're getting right now.
We need to keep radical voices on air. Subscribe now.
Go to 3cr.org.au/subscribe or call the station on 9419 8377.
And it's approximately 4:48, and just wanted to take this opportunity to thank anybody that has subscribed already. So people who have subscribed and or who have renewed their subscription, or who are new to 3CR and have subscribed, or even people who have been with 3CR for a long time and haven't had their subscription and have been inspired to do so. Thank you very much, and it's really important to have this very, very vital subscriber drive. So that was we actually looked at quite a few snippets here of 2020, and I believe that the service for prisoners that Karen Fletcher was talking about is still happening. So I was just checking that, and there were no events that you have to go through. I was just concerned that people would have just tuned in and maybe turned up to something which wasn't there. But as I said, I really wanted to showcase the work that the Doing Time show did last year, particularly because last year was terribly difficult for everybody, and in particular, you know, for people from minority groups like refugees, asylum seekers, Aboriginal people, women in prison, and the list goes on. And of course, it's been really hard for 3CR as well. There's been a lot going on in terms of having to provide, you know, COVID-safe practices and lots of training for people who have been doing remote broadcast and also, you know, staff working extremely hard to help people that actually can't go into the station. And I wanted to actually give out a very, very special cheerio and thank you to all the staff at 3CR and all the wonderful volunteers as well, other programmers too. It's been important to overcome those barriers in terms of being COVID safe. And in fact, I just think 3CR's done an incredible job about that. And hopefully, when stage 4 lifts, there'll be more opportunity for people to go back in. It's approximately 4:50, and we're nearing the end of our show. And just to reiterate again, in terms of subscribing, so it costs just $35 to subscribe to 3CR if you're unwaged or concession. It's $75 waged and $150 solidarity or for a band or organisation. You can subscribe online by going to www.3cr.org.au/subscribe. You can also subscribe by calling the station during business hours, Monday to Friday, and paying by credit card. Call 9419 8377. And a 3CR subscriber is a member of the station and therefore has a say in what happens at 3CR. Subscribers keep 3CR independent and commercial free. And your support will help to keep one of the best community radio stations on air. And I suppose the other thing I wanted to say is that community radio provides a vital space for us to communicate and organise together, free from vested corporate interests and the profit motive. Be part of the movement for change and become a member of Melbourne's precious independent community media. So it's approximately 4:52. Thanks to Peter, who probably is listening, for providing or helping to provide tech support for the pre-recorded material on this show today. And hello to Rob and Indy, who are also listening as well. And we're going to be going out with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella, by the Rumpy Band pretty soon. And thank you once again to all our listeners for being supportive to 3CR. And if people have subscribed already, thank you very much indeed. We've just got a couple of minutes left of our show, and I know I'm being really repetitive, but in case people have just tuned in, this is the Doing Time show. It's 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. And it is good to be repetitive because you never know when someone's just tuning in. So it costs just $35 to subscribe to 3CR if you're unwaged or concession. It's $75 waged and $150 solidarity or for a band or organisation. You can subscribe online by going to www.3cr.org.au/subscribe. You can also subscribe by calling the station during business hours, Monday to Friday, and paying by credit card. Call 9419 8377. And probably there won't be any cash this time because of the COVID-19. Money is dirty, I suppose. Okay, so I'm out of here pretty soon, and we're going to be going out with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella, by the Rumpy Band. It's a relatively little bit of a shortened show today, and tune in every Monday from 4 to 5 for the Doing Time show, and tune in next Monday as well. There's going to be quite amazing things coming up next Monday. And we'll be going out now with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella, from the Rumpy Band, with Beyond Zero coming up next. Take care of each other and stay safe and be well. Bye.
As long as you are true fella, as long as you are real fella. All the people of different races with different lives in different places. It doesn't matter what your name is. We got to have lots of changes. We need more brothers if we're to make it. We need more sisters if we're to save it. Are you the one who's gonna stand up and be counted? Are you the one who's gonna be there when we're shouting? Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan? Black fella, white fella, yellow fella, any fella, it doesn't matter what you color, as long as you are true fella. All the people of different races with different lives in different places. It doesn't matter which religions, it's all the same where the ship is sinking. We need more brothers if we're to make it. We need more sisters if we're to save it. Are you the one who's gonna stand up and be counted? Are you the one who's gonna be there when we shout it? Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan? Stand up and be counted. Stand up and be counted. Are you the one who's always ready with a helping hand? Are you the one who understands this family plan?
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast produced in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.